Welcome to my channel. I'm Gary Wiryawan, and today we're going to talk about this awesome lens right here. This is the Olympus 12-200mm f3.5 to f6.3. Let's go! Before we continue with today's video, if you are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Gary. In this channel, I mainly talk about photography, camera, lenses, especially micro four thirds, and also sometimes about music, guitar, home recording, all that kind of stuff from the perspective of an enthusiast. So if you are looking for something more honest, more authentic, then you should probably subscribe to my channel. And if you like my videos and want to support my channel even further, you can do so by using my affiliate links down below and use the super thanks button down below. They will help my channel to grow even more in the future. Now let's continue talking about the Olympus 12-200mm lens. So I've been doing a lot of super zoom contents lately on my channel. I just recently fall in love again with my Panasonic 14-140 super zoom lens for a good reason, because I've been traveling with this lens, and also I use this lens again for day-to-day basis on my vlogs. And you can check out one of the video right here about me using the 14-140 lens, and it's for a good reason, because super zoom lens, they are very versatile, they are very flexible, they produce good enough image quality, and they're just the best for run and gun situation, especially for travel. However, today we're not going to talk about the Panasonic 14-140. Instead, we're going to talk about this beautiful lens right here. This is the Olympus 12-200mm f3.5 to f6.3. So yeah, it's a little bit longer compared to the 14-140, and we're going to talk about that also today. Just to be clear, this lens is not mine. A very good friend of mine loaned me this lens, and I've been borrowing this lens for a few weeks already. I've been using this lens a lot on my vlogs lately as well. You can check out my vlogs right here that features this lens. I hope that you will also enjoy that video. But today I want to share my observations, my thoughts about this lens, what it can do, what it cannot do, what it's best for, that kind of stuff in today's video. And I hope that by the end of this video, you'll be able to learn whether the 12-200mm lens right here is a good choice for you or not. So now let's talk about some basic specification with the 12-200mm lens. First, let's talk about the obvious thing about this lens. Focal length. It goes from 12mm wide angle, beautiful landscape scenery kind of stuff, all the way to 200mm, which is wildlife territory. You can take a picture of birds using this lens easily, and I've done that as well. I will show some sample pictures later on this video, and I hope you will enjoy them. But basically, this lens can do anything, period. Name it: landscape, street photography, portrait, wildlife, anything. You can do it with just one single lens, and that's beautiful. Again, I just want to re-emphasize that this lens as a super zoom lens is the perfect choice for travel photography or for any kind of run and gun situation, because when you want to go from wide angle to telephoto focal length, you don't have to switch lenses. You can be very quick, you can be very versatile, and you don't miss shots because you are busy changing lens. The aperture of this lens goes from f3.5 at 12mm, and if you zoom it all the way to 200mm, it goes to f6.3. Rather small, you cannot really get that low light performance with this lens, but I think that compromise is worth it for that extra focal length, especially at the long end 200mm. You don't get that a lot these days. My Panasonic 14-140 can only go to 140mm, and this has an extra 60mm, and that can sometimes make or break your photo, especially for wildlife when you are traveling. Over here I have three lenses. One is a kit lens, Panasonic 12-32mm, and then the other is a mini telephoto, 35-100mm f4 to f5.6, and this is my ultra telephoto 100-300mm lens. You can basically replace these three lenses with just this Olympus 12-200mm. That's how versatile this lens is. This lens is made mostly from metal and textured plastic. It doesn't feel cheap at all. It feels very robust. It feels very nice. And also it comes with this rather nice lens hood right here, which is very rare for an Olympus lens. I'm really glad that it comes with this lens hood, even though it's not a pro level Olympus lens. There's also a 72mm filter thread on the front element of the lens, so it's perfect for attaching your CPL or ND filters. This lens is very simple, by the way. There's no special function buttons like on the Olympus Pro lenses. There's no focus switch button. It only has this zoom ring and also the manual focus ring right there. There's nothing else. And because it's so simple, unfortunately, it also doesn't have image stabilizer. So yeah, a little bit of a bummer for me personally, because I always love super zoom lens with image stabilizer. But there's weather sealing with this lens, although this is not a pro grade lens. And I'm very happy because for a travel lens, I think weather sealing is a good thing to have. When you're traveling, you don't really know what kind of weather that you will encounter. And with weather sealing, it really helps to minimize the risk of damaging your lens when using it in bad weather. This lens is also not really that heavy for what it can do, especially with this kind of focal length. It's only 455 grams. Not really that heavy, but as a micro four thirds lens, definitely it's on the heavier side. And also it's not really that much bigger when you compare it to something like the Olympus 12-200mm f2.8 or my Panasonic 14-140mm super zoom lens. Yes, it's bigger, it's a little bit taller, but it's not that much bigger. Still speaking about the weight of this lens, I tried using this lens with my Panasonic G85, this little camera right here. This is one of the smaller micro four thirds camera, and while using the combination of this camera and this lens, I feel okay. I don't find any problems with it. I would definitely recommend you to use a camera with better grip, such as my Panasonic GX8 right here, the Panasonic G85, or maybe the GH6, G9, or if you have Olympus camera, maybe the OM1 or the OM5, or you know, something with nice and beefy grip would be better. Now let's talk about performance and image quality of the Olympus 12-200mm. First, let's talk about the autofocus, and I'm happy to say that the autofocus performance is this lens. It's really nice, it's really fast, it's really accurate, especially in single autofocus at all focal lengths. So definitely this will be a good choice for mission critical kind of thing. If you're doing event photography, you can still rely on the autofocus of this lens. Close focusing capability with this lens is just superb in my opinion. You can really get close with this lens for semi-macro shots with its 22cm closest focusing distance, and combined with its long 200mm focal length, you can really get a good close-up magnification with this lens. Now it's time for me to talk about the image quality of this lens, and while I'm doing that, let me share you some of the sample images taken using this lens. And first, I would just want to say that the image quality of pictures taken using this lens are just really superb in my opinion. Everything is just really sharp, everything is just really contrasty, colors are punchy, and for a super zoom lens, definitely this goes way above average, and I'm really happy with the image quality of this lens. I just want to emphasize again that this is a super zoom lens, and that means that there will be some compromise and you will have to accept that. But with the Olympus 12-200mm lens, there's very little compromise when it comes to image quality, and that really surprises me. So I'm quite happy with the image quality performance of this lens, except at some extremes, especially at 200mm focal length, it is expected to be a little bit softer. But again, the image quality is more than good enough for me. Everything is sharp enough, especially for digital viewing. If you're sharing on the web, if you're printing, if you're not printing too big, then I think it will be fine. I want to do a comparison of image quality, especially sharpness, of this lens compared to the Panasonic 14-140mm in the future. So make sure that you are subscribed to my channel so that you will be notified when that video comes out. There are some vignetting that happens with this lens, especially at longer focal lengths, but I don't really think that is a big problem for me. The vignetting is not really that obvious, it's not really that disturbing, so I don't think it's a big of a deal. There's also some traces of chromatic aberration, especially if you're shooting something contrasty like 3 branches or 3 leaves with the sky as a background, something like that. But it's not really that big of a deal as well, in my opinion. You can easily post-process it or just leave it alone because it's not really that noticeable, in my opinion. What I think is going to be a problem is flare, especially when you're shooting directly into the sun or a very bright light source. You'll definitely encounter some flares. I think it's quite obvious. You have to be really careful when you're shooting. Adjust your angle carefully, adjust your composition carefully, and you'll be able to avoid the flares. Or just use the lens hood to reduce the chance of getting flares. I think it will also help. But it's not really as obvious as something like my Laowa 7.5mm, which is very notorious when it comes to flare. So, in conclusion, if you are looking for a good travel lens that can cover anything from wide angle to ultra telephoto with a good emphasis on the ultra telephoto focal length, I think the Olympus 12-200mm lens right here is a good choice for you, especially if you need that longer reach, because not many other lenses, especially in the Micro Four Thirds world, has this kind of telephoto reach. Mostly they have the wide angle reach, but not many of them can go all the way to 200mm with just one single lens. There will be compromise. That's very obvious, especially when it comes to super zoom lens. You won't get large aperture, and at longer focal lengths you'll have a little bit of decrease in terms of sharpness, and the image quality might not be sharp enough when you compare it to a pro level zoom lens like the 12-40 or to any of your prime lens. But the point of having a super zoom lens again is about flexibility, versatility, not having to change lenses, so you can be very quick, so you don't miss any moments, so that you can be able to do a run and gun situation easily without any kind of hassle. I just want to be very clear, not that the image quality is bad, it's actually really good. As you can see on my sample pictures, they're good. I should say that they're more than good enough, even though they are not the best. That's the whole point of super zoom lens. Some alternative lens that you should consider if you are considering the Olympus 12-200, first is this guy right here. This is the Panasonic 14-140mm f3.5 to f5.6. And you can also consider the Olympus version 14-150mm, and also there's Olympus 12-100mm f4, which has larger aperture. If you need that lower light capabilities, I think you should go with that. Otherwise, you can go with this one or the Olympus 14-150, or just stay with the Olympus 12-200 if you need the reach. Again, I will do a comparison in terms of sharpness between these two lenses, so stay tuned for that in the future, and make sure that you are subscribed to my channel. And that wraps up today's video. So that is all for today's video. I hope that today's video is useful, informative, and helps you to decide whether the Olympus 12-200mm lens is the right lens for you or not. If you have any question about today's video, please feel free to comment down below and I will try my best to answer them. Also, what is your favorite super zoom lens if you have one? Or if you don't have one, what is your favorite do-it-all kind of lens? Also, don't forget to support my channel by liking this video, sharing this video, subscribing to my channel down below. And if you want to support my channel even further, go use that affiliate links down in the description below, or use the super thanks button. They will help me to grow this channel even further. Thank you, and see you on the next video. Goodbye.